video, we will discuss the second section of Wasteland. Originally, Eliot had planned to name this section as In the Cage, referring again to the epigraph story of Sybil. Later on, he named it as A Game of Chess. The title A Game of Chess is from Thomas Middleton's work Women Beware Women. In Women Beware Women, the character Bianca is seduced by the Duke when Bianca's mother-in-law's attention is diverted by a game of chess. So the game of chess here stands for seduction and manipulation. So earlier in the first part, Eliot has already mentioned about the lack of love in the people of Wasteland. The same theme of sterility and life without love is again repeated in A Game of Chess. In this section, we are mostly shown modern women of Wasteland, the modern women in different social circumstances. Now this section opens with a description of a room in London. This room is very luxurious. It's a description of a lady's bedroom, and this room reminds us of Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. It's very similar to the description of Cleopatra's palace. The very first line is the chair she sat. It is very similar to how Cleopatra have been enthroned. If we look at these words like throne, marble, golden, candelabra, jewels, etc., we find that these words describe the luxury in which this woman is living. But then suddenly we notice that even though her room is luxurious, with the word synthetic, Eliot is bringing a contrast here. So we find that Eliot's actual intention was to heap up an image of Renaissance splendor. Even though she is living a luxurious life, it's all artificial. The actual situation here is revealed. So this woman whom we are talking about, she is a cosmopolitan woman living a luxurious life, and she is sitting at her dressing table, and all these luxuries that she has around her is meaningless. Because right from this word synthetic, this luxurious room has become unnatural and overwhelming. From here, she is described to be troubled, confused, and drowned in the sense of these odors. Look at how Eliot refers to light here. He calls the light sad. So the earlier luxurious vibes that the poem gave has been taken away by words such as synthetic perfumes, sad light, and so on. After describing her luxurious room, we are told about a painting on the wall. This painting is like a window opening upon Milton's earthly paradise. Eliot calls this the Sylvian scene. The painting depicts the transformation of the mythical heroine Philomena into a nightingale. The story is from Ovid's Metamorphoses. The story of Philomel is that Philomena was raped by her brother-in-law and he cut her tongue to prevent her from telling her secret. So the gods transformed her into a nightingale. This is described in the line, the change of Philomel by the barbarous king, so rudely forced, yet there the nightingale filled all the desert with inviolable voice, and still she cried. Even though her tongue was cut off, her sweet voice couldn't be destroyed. Why does Eliot brings the story of Philomel here? This will be clear to us from the next line. Even though Philomel cried as a nightingale, still the world pursues Jek to dirty ears. That is, even though she was crying out her story to the world doesn't care. The words Jek represents the song of the nightingale, and it is also a form of vulgar sexual address. So the same sound is heard differently by different listeners. Soon the focus is changed to withered stumps of time. And we are told that the woman about whom we talked about earlier is combing her hair in a nervous excitement. She is waiting for her lover, and the fiery points of the woman's hair reminds us of Medusa. The next scene that Eliot presents is a conversation between a neurotic woman and her husband, or maybe her beloved. We understand that this woman wants this man to speak to her. So she is compelling him to speak. She says, "Speak, speak to me. Why do you never speak?" And all this time, this man is simply sitting and thinking. And finally, he replies, but this reply puzzles her. He says, "I think we are in Rad's Alley where the dead men lose their bonds." We will come to the meaning of these lines soon, but before that, let's see two more lines below. The woman is suddenly nervous. She hears a noise, might be the wind under the door. Okay, now look at the earlier two lines. The phrases such as Rad's Alley and then where the dead men lose their bonds, and again in the next stanza, the woman is speaking about wind. These phrases remind us of an earlier reference already made in the poem, which is Ezekiel's vision of the dead valley. It's a reference from the Bible in the Old Testament. Ezekiel's vision is that God shows him a valley full of dead bones, and with a blast of wind, the bones received the breath of life and they stood up on their feet. Here too, a wind is blowing, but what is the wind doing? It is doing nothing. And the next few lines here, you know nothing, do you see nothing, etc. These shows that their life is aimless, and the reference to tempest is made again here. Those are pearls that were his eyes. These lines are spoken by Ariel. Ariel tells Ferdinand that his father, King Alonso, has transformed after drowning. A kind of rebirth has happened in Alonso. But here, look at these lines again, the use of these lines. I remember those are pearls that were his eyes. Are you alive or not? Is there nothing in your head? So, after the lines indicating rebirth, again we have lines that show meaninglessness and absence of any kind of spirituality or meaning in their life. If you look at these few lines here, you see the repetition of the word nothing quite a lot. This repetition of the word nothing is also an indication of nothingness in the modern life. The next stanza is a continuation of the same scene. It's very simple, it doesn't have many complicated meanings in it. It simply shows the complicated mind, confused mind of a man living in the modern world. In this line, the Shakespearean rag is a kind of popular song from Eliot's time. So this man is listening to the song and he says it's elegant, it is a brilliantly written song, and then all of a sudden he remembers that he has nothing to do. He asks, "What shall I do now? And what shall I do tomorrow? What shall I ever do again?" Maybe he could do a hot water at 10, and if it rains, he could sit in a closed car at 4, and then he could play a game of chess. So, in short, he is giving a summary of the routine of his daily life. And after asking all these questions, what does he do in the end? He closes his eyes and waits for a knock upon the door. And this knock upon the door is a reference to death. Okay, now we have reached the final stanza of the poem. In this stanza, we find a conversation between women in a London pub. We understand that this is a pub because we hear the barman saying that it is the closing time of pub. He keeps on telling that, "Hurry up, please, it's time." A character is introduced here, a woman. Her name is Lil. So this woman Lil and other women, maybe her friends, they are having a conversation. Through this stanza, Eliot is introducing us to lower class women. Earlier, we had a woman who is living in a luxurious house like Cleopatra. Now, we have the lower class woman. These lines are said by one of those women who are with this woman named Lil. We understand that Lil's husband is coming back home from army, maybe after World Wars. So one of the other women sitting with her in the pub is giving her opinions that since her husband Albert is coming back, make yourselves a bit smart. And the next advice that this woman gives Lil is that he was giving you money and now he would come and see what you have done with the money. So get yourself some teeth, some artificial teeth. Because she remembers that he once said that he can't bear to look at Lil. And after that, the woman makes some irritating remarks that he has been in the army for 4 years and now he is coming back and he wants some good time. And if you don't give it to him, then others will. So these lines show a absence of strong relationship between the married couples. We understand that there is no spiritual love here, no divinity in their love. Like what John Donne has said in his valediction forbidding mourning, there is no guarantee that their relationship will stay strong and firm after all these years of separation. And in between, we find the bar attendant keeping on telling that hurry up, please, it's time. He keeps repeating this line again and again. These lines are an indication that if anything is to be done, then it should be done before it is too late. And the conversation continues. It's still the defaming talk they had before. This woman keeps telling her that if Albert makes off, it won't be because of lack of telling. I have already told you that you have to look smart enough for Albert to like you again. And you ought to be ashamed that you look so antique, you look so old. And Lil's age also is mentioned here. She's only 31 and she looks so antique. So, on one side, we are shown their lives. That only this woman who is only 31 years old has looked so antique because of the hard life that she is living in the modern world. But these lines also suggest that in order to sustain the relationship that she has with her husband Albert, she is forced to look good. It is no more about a spiritual love. And finally, Lil gives an answer to what opinions she has been hearing all this time. And she says, I can't help it. It's because of all the pills that I'm taking. These pills refers to abortion pills, again referring to the theme of sterility. She says she has already had 5 children and she almost died of young George, her fifth son. See, the only concern of this woman is how they look, and children are unwanted. And she says the chemist said that it would be alright if she took the pills, but she has never been the same. And her friend doesn't stop there. She keeps telling her that you are a proper fool. If Albert leaves you, remember that I have already told you to look smart and please Albert, but you didn't listen to me. And she also asks, why do you want to get married if you don't want children? So, in short, her friend Lo is telling Lil to give sexual pleasures to her husband at home by looking smart and attractive. And again, we find the bartender repeating the lines, hurry up, please, it's time, again and again in the poem. And we understand the names of some women with her, Lo, May, Bill, and so on. So, she is giving farewell to these women before she is leaving the pub. And finally, Eliot ends the stanza with the lines, good night, good night. Good night, ladies, sweet ladies, good night, good night. These lines are from Shakespeare's Hamlet. This is said by Ophelia. It is Ophelia's mad farewell. Ophelia was a victim to the cruelty of her lover, so she was helpless just like Lil. So, along with the themes of absence of love, here Eliot also brings the theme of unwanted children in Wasteland. And with that, we come to an end to this section. We have reached the end of the video, and if you have found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe and please provide your valuable comments.